If you're going to tell my tragic story, give me the honor of getting it correct.
Things in life happen when they're supposed to. And we've been trying for 12 years to get this movie made. And had we gotten it made earlier, she wouldn't have been in it because she was too old for sister, but too young to play the mother. And so this came at a time in her life where she was just really ready on every level.
She would come to set with her script, and she had notes in it, and we would discuss the scene and the character and how she wanted to approach it or how I wanted to approach it. And we worked together as a team to help develop a character that she was excited about playing. And she's amazing in it.
When Deborah said, you know, Whitney wants to play Emma, first you go, are you kidding me? Because and to be honest, you're like a party's like, I'm gonna meet Whitney Houston. I actually remember the day that I got my 17 magazine, which I would run to the mailbox for. And here was this beautiful black girl on the cover, and I was blown away. I kept it for a very long time because it meant that much to me. And what it said to me, even though I'm not sure I articulated it then, but looking back, I know what the younger Mara was thinking was, wow, it's possible that we can be as beautiful and glamorous and held in such high regard on a publication that I run to the mailbox for like every other young girl does, and that we are seen as beautiful as I know that we are. And it spoke to my spirit, and I knew that about Whitney then.
At a certain point, Mara's right, you just kind of like, oh damn, that's Whitney Houston, you know, it's no joke. There were moments when I'm like standing, you know, I'm talking to her and I lose perspective and I'm like, oh, it's Whitney Houston I'm talking to.
You know, the table reads that's my big moment in the production. Here's my first opportunity to say hello, how much I love you, how much you matter to me. And I'm prepared to say all of these things to her. And I did, but not before she shared some beautiful things with me. And I was proud of my script. But for Whitney Houston to call you an angel, and that because, and what she was expressing was, Mara, everything that I wanted this to be, that I wanted to say about this project 10 years ago, 11 years ago, you were able to do it. You're my angel, to be able to articulate what I've wanted to say. And it's funny, she's saying this to me, and here I'm thinking, all that you've articulated to me throughout the years, I think you're an angel. I think what we're trying to express in our very limited language is we're recognizing God's gift to both of us. She as a performer, me as a writer. And it was nice to have that moment, and I'm glad it's mine.
The relationship between an actor and a director is very intimate. And the relationship that I developed with Whitney over a very short, intense period of time. Intense because we're artists trying to create something in a short period of time. Was one of trust, of course, and an understanding. One of my proudest moments was I know she had an interview to do with, I think, Entertainment Tonight, and she called and asked me, would I do them with her? I was happy to do it, I was happy to do it. It just, you know, it felt good that she trusted me like that, and that my presence could make her feel comfortable.
She came to set ready to give and just to really be present. She just immediately adored all of the actors. And not just in her role as the mother, which she got into, but just because that's where she was in her life. Jordan was special, I think, for two reasons. One, Jordan is only a few years older than Bobby Christina. And so it was very easy for her to slide into a mothering, nurturing rapport with her. And secondly, she saw herself in Jordan, and they really did connect on a very visceral level. I mean, I remember the day that Jordan was doing the finale, and Whitney wasn't working, and she called me up. She's like, I'm coming down. She's like, I gotta see my baby.
She could have just done her scenes and left, and you know, she would stay and she would talk to us and she would hang out with us and she would, you know, ask me if I ever needed anything. And it was true, like it really did bleed over as mother and daughter. It was just really nice to see her in that light and just to see how real she was and how down to earth she was. The amazing thing about Whitney is, for people who didn't get to meet her, I'll tell you this. When you met her, you knew that she believed every word that she was singing when she sang those songs. And when you met her, she was that person singing them, and it wasn't like you see her in the video and she's singing The Greatest Love of All, and you see her and it was something different. It was, she would tell you, like, you're the future, you can do this. We were doing the dinner scene, and you know, they were changing tape or moving angles, and we shot on location in Detroit, so we shot in this big house. So a lot of the scenes were filmed there. So it wasn't like there was a room set up and another room set up. It was a full house. So I went from the dining room into the den, and it had the piano in it. It's where I sit and write my songs in the movie. And I was sitting there, you know, practicing what I was learning for the film. And I was, you know, kind of just getting into it. And I was thinking, I closed my eyes and thought, and all of a sudden I felt two hands go on top of my hands. And I didn't know who it was, so I turned around and I look over, and Whitney's leaning over my shoulder, and she starts playing, and I just sat there, like I didn't really know what to do, because I was just like, this is happening. She's behind me and she's playing piano, and it was so a motherly thing to do. She just, you know, stepped right over and started playing, and for the moment, like, she wasn't Whitney Houston, this huge star. She was Whitney. She was my friend, just sitting next to me playing a song on the piano, and I will cherish that moment forever.
She was at a point in her life where she was the most comfortable with herself I think I'd ever known. Kind of wearing her life experiences in a good way. Honest about a lot that had happened, but in that way that says, you know, that's a part of who I am, but I've gone beyond, and I'm feeling that I am the sum total of all of my experiences. Being a mother was the most important thing in the world to her, and so she really came to set just ready to give. She adored Tika and Carmen.
Whitney was very conscious of the fact that there were a lot of parallels between my character and her life story, the ups and the downs, and she was always very available and willing to be open about those experiences and share them with me as an actress as much as I needed to know how to bring reality to that story. And I was just very taken by her generosity in that way, you know, because with having gone through so many trials and tribulations in her own life, the potential of shutting down is very much there, and she just wasn't that person. She was one of the most open, lack of pretense people I've ever come across, actually. And so it was just an absolute treasure to have spent the time that we did with her on set.
You grow up looking at these record, you know, these CDs with her face, her beauty, I mean, her voice, and then you get the call that you're actually gonna play her daughter. And she sat next to me during the table read. literally my leg was shaking underneath me because I was like, this is Whitney Houston. She was on point all the time, happy. She was a set mom. She would call us her babies. And I feel like it was a time where it was just fun and freeing. And, you know, even if I was in a corner being quiet, you know, she'd be like, you okay, baby? You okay? Or she'll be like, I'm so proud of you. You know, just things like that. And she was just comforting, a comforting force to be with on set. And I'm just grateful that I got the opportunity to work with her.
She was ready to give and share the benefit of this enormous, you know, experience and wisdom that she'd gotten over the years.
What I loved about Whitney Houston on the set was that she was such an encourager and a collaborator. What makes a legend is that she is very tangible, and they don't see themselves the way other people see them. And that's how Whitney came off. It was just like, you know, who she is in the public is who she is, but you're seeing a real person.
I worked with Whitney Houston years ago. I did a video with her and Bobby Brown years ago, and I met her then, so it was incredible to work with Whitney. And I'm just glad that I had a chance to work with somebody as great as she was, you know, and still is a great legacy, so many albums, and was just as great of an actress as she was a singer. And it was incredible to work with her, full of life and just fun and real and attracted to the real.
And I asked Whitney on the set if she would sing You Give Good Love to Me, which was my favorite song of hers. And she leaned back almost into my hug and she whispered back to me, she said, oh, Mari, that was so long ago. I just wanted to hear her sing it. And so she gave me a little bit of it, but it was really neat to see her kind of in a nostalgic way go back, you know, and you could just see where her mind was going, the wheels were spinning, and what she was trying to recreate, you know, in her mind. She was obviously the soundtrack of our lives.
She always wanted to do great work, and I do miss that, and I will miss that, because a lot of artists, they're happy with where they are. They kind of come in, coast a little bit. But I'll miss that passionate energy. When she came out of the booth in the last song we sang, she was dancing around the control room. She's like, come on, let's dance. So she starts dancing. You know, that's not normal. That's not things that everyone does. And so that kind of joy for her craft and that kind of, I mean, I hate to say, you know, joy of life, but just the feeling of having a positive outlook and being upbeat, that's something that I think was unique to her and special about her and that I'll miss.
I think her music was important to people for two reasons. One, because it was ubiquitous. You know, it was the soundtrack of the 80s and much of the 90s. That songs that we partied to, songs that we played at the, you know, big, important moments in our lives. Songs that made you tap your feet and smile, and songs that made you feel. The voice was undeniable. You know, it was the voice of a generation, you know, a voice of a lifetime. But I think I think it's also because people loved her and understood that her music was her gift to the world.
I'm just sad that we lost someone so special and someone that I cared about and someone that everybody in the industry respected and looked up to, and then someone that changed so many people's lives with her music and with her voice, with her gift, you know. And when people are having issues, they're listening to Whitney Houston songs. When they're celebrating, they're listening to Whitney Houston songs. When they're getting married, they're listening to her music.
Me just coming from the side of listening to her music and idolizing her and, you know, trying to sing her songs and do her riffs and memorize them, and it was just moments where I just had to pinch myself. From singer to singer, she would say things sometimes, and they're amazing compliments in general, but especially coming from her. I mean, I sang I Want to Dance with Somebody into a hairbrush. Like, I just remember it so vividly, just standing there with my hairbrush.
In my mind, her legacy is the best female voice of our generation. There's been other incredible voices, but if you look back in the last 15 or 20 years, she's the person that is the gold standard for female vocalists. So her music is going to be her legacy, and that's the real obvious answer. But after she passed, I got in my car and they played a 24-hour block of Whitney Houston songs. And as I was driving around, I was thinking of all the other things, the talk about this or that, and all the other things going on in her life. The music came on, and that's all anyone really cares about. And that's all I care about. And that's what people driving around listening to that music, they're just thinking, wow, what an amazing song. What an incredible vocal. What an amazing artist. And for me, looking back, that's what she'll always be.
I actually take great solace in the fact that this movie exists, because it's my personal contribution to her legacy. It's her own contribution to her legacy. And she loved it so much. She was so excited about this movie. And honestly, it's the best performance of her life. In fact, it's funny. It was after the first, probably the first day, and she just nailed this scene. Just really, like, first take, wow. And I went up to her and I said, pulled her aside, and I said, look, I said, you know, you've always been a movie star. And she just deflated. And I said, but now you've become a real actress. And she grabbed me and she hugged me and she was like, really? And I'm like, yes. And you know it and you feel it. She was like, I do.
I think it was so brave of her to embrace the Emma character because of the backstory of the character. It's very similar to sort of the struggle she's had personally. And I thought, wow, how profound is it going to be that she gets to speak up for the Emmas? But it does take on a whole other meaning for me now that she has passed, that how beautiful and how classy that Whitney gets the last word. And, you know, through Emma. And her last spoken words on the film is, have a great show. She gave us everything in her music and her performances. And it's a very simple statement, but it means a lot to me coming from her, and especially, you know, that's what we're supposed to do, whether it be in our entertainment careers or our life in general. Reach for greatness. So I just thank you, Whitney.
Her life was complicated. Obviously, good things and bad things. That's what life is. And it was her destiny to live it out in full view of the public. But I think what we all hope for is to get to that point where we're comfortable with who we are. And it was the closest she'd ever been. She was in that zone for the first time. And that's gratifying to me. And I think, again, it comes through in her portrayal of Emma.
So meeting Whitney, you know, for both me and her, the conversations that we had just brought back a lot of memories of our childhoods. And, you know, I think we're exactly the same age. And, you know, so it was interesting. It was a great, beautiful moment in my life that, as they say, I'll cherish. You know, it's one of the highlights of this journey that I'm on.
Do good. Love y'all. Night, night.